I would like to personally welcome you to Man Hour After Dark. Say that thing. Why I bring you the host, Mike, Buck, and Cone. You know who's coming to the stage. Sports talk than what you about to hear right here. I second that.
Go. You know that it's us when we talking about sports. Giving you facts on the field to the core. Tune in, we need the support. 1 hour too short, then listen some more. On all your stations, not dropping no music. Starts like Adidas, but Nike just do it. Down 4 in the 4th, we go for the win. Michael 2 seconds, we taking it in. Buck, Mike, and Combs, you know what's going on. Man, now we're After Dark, no LA, we the big spark. No 4th and inches, won't cut short. Got the best talking, it's all sports. Buzzing more than buzzer beaters. We coming live all through your speakers, go.
A play to have more audio here. Can you guys hear us now? Not sure what's going on.
It was fine right before the show.
What is going on? So we have no audio. Oh, now they can hear us. All right, perfect.
Well, let's intro again.
yeah, another intro. So we are going.
This is podcast life.
Yeah, you know, we're trying new things. We're trying to get better here. As you guys can
see, we are in the same spot. I've got my boy Fitzy here. Well, actually, he has me here. I'm in Fitz's house, so I'm the guest today. We're gonna let Fitzy go ahead and host. We're gonna have to figure out this whole microphone thing, because I can hear myself in the headphones. So.
Yeah, that's all right. I mean,
it's trial and error, right?
Yeah.
Yes. So we do what we can. Now Fitzy is saying we have some echo here, so let me try something here.
How about that? Hopefully the echo is gone now. I don't know if it will be.
Yeah.
But we're gonna find out quick.
Yeah, I mean, but glad to have you here. Like I said before, when we were muted, I hope you don't have any outstanding felonies. I don't know if anybody heard that or if they have captions on, but because you did cross state lines to be here today, Dyer, Indiana. So glad to have you here. I'm ready for the show. I think it's going to be an exciting show. The Bears are interesting again.
Yeah. You know, the Bears are one of those teams where I have so many things that they can do heading up into this draft. And I don't know what you can do, but for me, like, there are so many options with this number 1 draft pick. And I've gone to many of different places with this draft pick. The first one that I went to was when DeAndre Hopkins decided that he wanted to be traded, and the Arizona Cardinals decided they wanted to put him out on the open market.
Yeah.
The one thing that I went to was like, well, screw it. We needed a number one wide receiver. So let's go number one for DeAndre Hopkins and the number 3. You trade that to Arizona, then you flip the number 3 to a team like Vegas, somewhere out there where they're going to want a defensive end or something to that effect. And I thought maybe you could do that and you could get a second, a third, a fifth, plus the number 8 pick. And now you've got all of these draft picks, right? So then I started thinking about it. I'm like, do I really want to give up the number 1 pick for DeAndre Hopkins and the number 3? And I'm like, you could probably get him for the 3rd and the 5th, right? Like, you don't have to necessarily trade the
Ravens second pick,
pick,
or no?
Right? You
I don't
could
think so.
trade a 3rd and a 5th and maybe even a 6th or something like that, and you're going to get way more in return, right? Or the other thing that I have, once I started thinking about it, is Houston and Indianapolis into a bidding war. Both of those teams need a quarterback. Houston kind of screwed themselves over. And they might want to move back up to number 1 because now, especially with CJ Stroud deciding to stay back at Ohio State because he's probably going to get paid more at Ohio State than he is going to be on the field.
True.
I don't know that.
I think I think of Quentin Johnston as Kevin White. He screws it up. But no, there's not a lot of ways you could screw it up. I mean, Poles has this league by the balls, I think. I mean, there's a lot of different ways they can go and different roads they can go down. No matter what, there's going to be so many moves in the offseason, they are going to get something wrong.
Mm-hmm.
You're never going to hit on every pick. You're never going to hit on every free agent. This is football. The guy could play 3 games and get hurt and be out a season. I mean, you're never going to get everything right, but you can get most picks right. You can get most free agents right. I think. I still think it just depends on what they're going to do in free agency, which we'll get to that later. But I think you really have to focus on your edge rusher, like you said, if they're picking at 4 or 5 with the Colts trade. Is that going to help? Are they going to be able to get, either Will Anderson or the guy from Georgia, who I keep forgetting his name, Carter? I think is his last name. As a 3 technique tackle. There might be a 3 technique tackle out there that's called foreshadowing, that we're going to talk about a little bit later. But I don't think there's a lot of ways they can mess this up. I think one way of messing this up is trading Justin Fields, which they're not going to do.
Yeah.
They're just not going to do. I think Ryan Poles loves that people are talking about that he might possibly do that, but I don't think I do not think there's a possibility at all that they're going to trade for Bryce Young. I mean, Bryce Young isn't very larger than I am. 190 pounds. They have him at 6 feet. There's other places you can look where he's 5'2". And when you're 5'10", when you're 5'10" to 6 feet tall, every inch counts. I don't know if you want another Kyler Murray situation or you want a Rex Grossman situation. Obviously, Bryce.
That you can't hear us. Can you hear us now? Do we sound good now? I mean, we probably don't sound good ever, but can you at least hear the words that are coming out of our mouths?
Mic check.
Mic check 1, 2. We're going to get this right. All right. Jeremiah says yes, he can hear us. We've got all sorts of stuff going on right now. So
it's a podcast in the basement. I mean, sometimes
Yeah.
a lot of these podcasts started out in basements, garages, maybe sheds, backyards.
Long story short, I realized that I didn't plug in the microphone.
Yes! I love it. You know these computers have microphones too.
Yes,
We could have just done that.
So let's do this. They said they couldn't hear me when I was solo. So let me put myself solo again and see if so the thing is, I have to have you on the stream. I'm gonna have to have somebody take a look at this and maybe run me through how this works. So we're gonna keep it like this for a little while, and then we'll worry about the microphone stuff. I'm gonna have to somebody teach me how to use all this stuff because I don't know. You used to be a damn producer. Why is
I
all this
could.
stuff
I don't know
working?
why it's on your side.
God. Anyway, Johnny Torres says, I blame it on Indiana. I blame it on Indiana.
Oh, here we
You guys
go,
probably
Johnny.
didn't hear the story, but on my way driving in today, I knew I was in Indiana because there was a strip mall that had a liquor store. Next door to the liquor store was a tattoo parlor. Next door to the tattoo parlor was a store called the Children's Place.
You can get drunk while your kids are in the children's place.
Yeah, and get a tattoo.
Get a tattoo.
Yeah, or maybe you could bring your kid
Come
in for
on.
a tattoo. Maybe you could get a family discount.
You can bring your whole biker gang there with their
Yeah.
kids.
There's all sorts of things that you could do. And so here, I just don't know. Can you guys still hear us now? How about this? Maybe you could see us both at the same time. Maybe you could hear us both at the same time. Hopefully this is still working. I don't know if it is, but anyway. So we've got some good comments coming in. I did see Jeremiah say the Colts are infatuated with Will Levis. They've said they'll do whatever it takes to get the number 1. So if you bypass allowing Houston to go to number 1, you lose a lot of you lose more than what you can get, right? So in order for you to give that to the Colts, you're not going to maximize what you can get for your draft pick. the Bears are in a position now that they've never been in a position before. And they're in a position now where, quite frankly, as Bears fans, we expect them to screw this up.
Yes.
We're not expecting them to do anything good with this. We're not expecting them to do any of the right moves. We're expecting that they are going to trade probably Justin Fields instead of trading the number 1 pick. They're going to draft Bryce Young, who's about 5'8", and he's going to get murdered in the first game, and he's going to be no good. We're going to lose Justin Fields. We're going to waste the number 1 pick, and we're not going to trade anything, right? Because that's what the Bears do.
Murphy's Law, anything that can go wrong, right, will eventually go wrong. I mean, is that where it's like we're held hostage by the Bears pretty much.
Yeah.
I mean, and right now we're those people have been held hostage for so long that they fall in love with the hostage takers.
and damn it, Virginia McCaskey is still alive.
She is still alive. She is. Blood pressure check. Yeah, she is still alive, unfortunately. Well, or fortunately. But yeah, I mean, at this point, I think a lot of Bears fans are feeling the same thing. But this is a new regime. I mean, you got to give them a shot. You can't just say, "Oh, nothing's going to work out." They had some good picks. In the previous draft. I mean, Brisker looks good. Kyler Gordon looks good. Even Velus Jones, they alternate. I guess if when he plays good, we'll know how to pronounce his name. But he had a couple good games at the end of the season.
Now we just call him Fumble.
Yes. But I think he's gonna. I mean, I think that pans out. That's a good, running wide receiver that you got there. I don't think anybody's saying that Braxton Jones is a complete bust. I mean, he's your starting left tackle. You got him in the 5th round.
I think Braxton Jones is a complete bust. I mean, every Sunday, this man had a penalty that would cost us points. Every Sunday, this man had on a run that Justin Fields broke for 70 yards on the opposite side of where he was lined up and had no reason to hold. Like, I think Braxton Jones is a complete bust. Jeremiah says, can we get the Colts to give two number ones, a second, Buckner and Nelson? So I've heard the Nelson idea.
Yeah.
I think really depends what we do during free agency, right? $108 million. We finally got the number. Remember, at first it was
116, 114, yeah.
It's 108 and a half.
110, I heard, yeah.
Yeah. So you're going to have to keep some cap space, obviously, for your draft picks, right? I think the best way to maximize what the Bears are doing is to trade the number 1 to Houston. Trade the number 1 to Houston, get the 2 and the 12, trade the 2 to Indy, and get the number 4. So now you've got the number 4 pick, you've got the number 12 pick, you're going to get second and thirds out of that. If you don't get a guy like Orlando Brown or Mike McGlinchey or even both of them, right, because you got the cap space to do so, then Quentin Nelson becomes a commodity. And then maybe if you don't really beef up your offensive line in free agency, maybe then you give the number 1 to Indy. You cut Houston out of it. You give the number 1 to Indy. And then you could probably get 2 firsts, a second, Nelson, and maybe Buckner. I think asking for Buckner in that might be Indy's
might tip the scales a little bit. It could.
Their GM and their owner both said they'd move heaven and earth to get the number 1 pick. So maybe you try to get them to move heaven and earth to get the number 1 pick.
And I don't know what's going on with the Colts, but why would you say that? How does that help you to say that? Just call up the Bears.
When he said that, I was like, wow, that's usually a Bears GM move.
Yeah.
Like, that is not something we're used to being like, hey, that that guy is a guy we could potentially trade with. Usually we're screaming that that's our guy. Why is he saying this?
Yeah, exactly.
We're in uncharted territory here. I think we have the right GM. I think we have the right coaching staff.
Sure.
Which the jury's still out on that, right? But I think they did some good things. I think they showed some good signs. I think they showed all season long that they can make the adjustments at halftime. So I do believe we have the right coaching staff in place. I just think as Bears fans, we're so scared that it's going to happen again, right? Like we're both.
Yeah.
I'm a Cubs fan. You're a Sox
fan.
Right?
Well, yeah, we have a lot of experience.
That we could have all the pieces in place and it still fall apart.
Yeah.
Right? Like,
for sure.
I mean, the White Sox have seen it for the better half of the last 2 seasons.
Yes. Unfortunately. We can get to that later as well. But yeah, I mean, that's what it's tough. It's tough to evaluate a coaching staff after 1 year, especially when the team's terrible. I mean, we had the complete opposite with Matt Nagy when he came in here, and he actually got a pretty decent team. You pick up Mac that season. You know, Trubisky is okay. He's a serviceable backup. We know that now. We thought he might be the guy back then. We didn't know. We didn't know much. He had that one terrible year with John Fox where he played, I don't know how many games, maybe 8 to 10 games. So the evaluation went the other way. Everybody thought Nagy, this guy could be the guy. And then we found out that he's not flexible at all, that his press conferences are painful to watch. And ended up being a guy that might just be, a quarterback's coach in the end. Was not a guy who was a head coach or had the flexibility to be a head coach. But anyway, now we're seeing it in the other direction now, right? Yeah. With Fluss coming in, his guys coming in, really not having a defense, especially the last 10 games of the year. Even with Roquan Smith there, their defense was lacking. They had a lot of injuries there at the very end. You got Eddie Jackson getting hurt. Brisker was out a little bit. So was Kyler Gordon. Jalen Johnson was in and out, who's probably one of your better defensive players now. A lot of people are saying Brisker, still a rookie for me. Pump the brakes. Jalen Johnson's pretty damn good, though.
Jeremiah says Eberflus won't make Arlington Heights.
I like that.
I mean, Arlington Heights is probably 5 or 6 years away, so it's not out of the realm of possibility. But let me ask you this. Before we bring on Johnny Torres and we get to Stephanie Morales with our Southside Bag Star of the Week, this was the most losses in Bears history in a single season. 14 losses. They did have a 1-12 season in like the 50s or 60s or something, right?
Mm-hmm.
This 3-14 season was arguably the worst Bears season of all time. Is it possible that the worst Bears season of all time could also be the greatest Bears season of all time?
Bottoming out. I mean, so many teams do it, and they bottom out the right way, where they're not winning a game or two at the end of the year, and then you miss out on Peyton Manning, or they lose a game or two, and you have the 5th, 6th pick, and you get Curtis Enos, or you get Rashaan Salam,
or you have the 2nd pick, and you choose Mitch Trubisky,
yes,
Deshaun Watson,
or Patrick Mahomes. But I get the Patrick Mahomes argument. I do get that argument. A lot of people didn't have him on their board as a top 5 quarterback. But Deshaun Watson, I mean, come on.
It made no sense.
Talk to the guy. That's another point I want to make about Justin Fields on the other end of the interview. Talk to you. I think that's another intangible that you could say. Listen to the guy talk.
Yeah.
I mean, I know a lot of people are going to say things that are bland and, football, sports jock, jargon. But Justin Fields doesn't just say jargon, especially after Game 4 when he said after Game 4, like, I'm sick of saying we're almost there.
Yeah.
And you could see he was pissed off and he didn't care. For a 23-year-old to say that shows me something.
Yeah, absolutely. I love Justin Fields' off the field leadership. I really do like this kid a lot. I think we have our quarterback. We're going to get into that on the other side of the interview. But without further ado, let's bring on my guy, Johnny Torres of Southside Bags. What is going on, Johnny?
Hey, good morning, guys. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we got you.
Ooh, good. Morning. How I'm doing today?
Good, man. It looks like you're breaking up a little bit there, man. You're stealing that Walmart Wi-Fi or something. We got Cricket Wireless going on over there. What's going on?
Nah, it's Starbucks Wi-Fi. Sorry.
Starbucks Wi-Fi. Okay.
That's a big ass coffee. Combs, that's a big ass coffee you got there.
Yeah,
You got to get the big one.
I had to come to Indiana, so I needed to wake up a little bit.
Nah.
So, Johnny, we had a great time on Thursday night at Southside Bags. I am going to apologize to the Morales family a little bit later on. I kind of teased that because I accidentally, before the show, just like I did with yours before, I think, autocorrect is getting me, but I accidentally misspelled Nico's last name, and he texted me about it, and I changed it before the show. But then on Thursday, he pulled the most mafia move of all time, and he sent his partner Tom to come in to Bourbon Street and take all of our money. He took all of our money on Thursday night. 3 tournaments, and he won all 3.
Wow, yeah, he did take all 3. Tom Gustafson, stud. No words for him. I mean, he absolutely killed it. Even going into the losers bracket or on the main tournament, he just absolutely killed it. Not to discredit his partner Jason Erner, who's also a great shooter. Shout out Jason if you're listening somewhere out there. But yeah, the guy's amazing. What do you think? I wish Fitz would have been there.
Dude, not only is he amazing, but he throws his bags backwards.
That's right. That's right. So
spin,
sounds like something I would do.
He told me he straightens his elbow, and when he does it, so when you throw your bags will spin.
Yeah.
Well, his spin and reverse angle is like he's.
Is he from Australia?
It's like he's in Australia flushing a toilet. Like they go the wrong way.
Yeah. So yeah, that's the reason why they call him the reverse Mamba. It's all stamped on his bags, his attire, whatnot. But yeah, he throws righty just like us. Hey Eric, chiming in. He's a righty, and his naturally our bag will spin. Is it left? Wait, counterclockwise.
Yes.
His will spin clockwise. So or vice versa. Our spins correct. So I don't know how he does it.
Clockwise, counterclockwise. I get it. Yeah.
I tried it. After I was watching him a little bit, and I tried it, and I think I threw the bag about 4 feet, so it didn't really even make the board.
Yeah, I'm surprised. No, no. But also let's not forget Tom did throw with my bags the last 2 tournaments. He threw with my reverse Mamba bags and my Surefire.
You're taking credit for the win.
I think I deserved at least 10% cut from that, but. That's a whole different conversation.
I kind of agree. I think that since he's a pro, I think we all deserve our money back. And I think since you invited him, Johnny, you owe us all a little bit of extra on Thursday.
Okay, sure.
Free buy-ins for everybody.
Absolutely.
Yeah. All right. So we got Stephanie Morales coming on the show. Tell us a little bit about Stephanie before we get into it.
So yeah, Stephanie Morales, huge fan of her. Obviously, she is the better half of our last week's interviewee, Nico Morales. She pretty much follows him throughout. She's been following him throughout his career. I believe Nico's a 3-year pro, if I'm not mistaken. Anyway, she actually broadcasts most of his events when she's she's able to, and so she does play-by-play. She does the whole camera thing. Guys, that is not one easy task. I'm going to let you know. It's something that I've tried. Of course, not successful. But just to be able to attend these matches, these events, these big events, and kind of do play-by-play. She keeps it very simple. I'm a big fan. Whenever possible, I do chime in and comment or just view, enjoy it. So without further ado, this is Stephanie Morales. Give it up, guys.
All right.
Hi, guys.
Stephanie, what's going on?
How's it going?
Hi. Good, Stephanie. How about yourself? Thanks for jumping on.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
So, Stephanie, before I take Johnny off the screen, I want you to do him a favor. Do not let Nico hear that he said you were his better half, because I don't want Tom Gustafson showing up to Johnny's house trying to take his money too.
Right. We'll keep that secret.
All right, Johnny, we'll talk to you in a little bit.
See you, Johnny.
All right, Stephanie. So I was kind of kidding, but kind of not. Is Nico the head of some mafia in Chicago where if you do anything to piss him off, he's sending Tom out here to kneecap and take everybody's money?
It sounds like he got back at you guys.
Yeah, just a little bit. I will say that, of course, and it happens to me every week. I think Johnny plans it, but every time I get into a tournament, I have the worst draw. Either I have to throw against my buddy Billy, who is a sharpshooter,
Right.
or I throw up against the pro, and I end up going up against Tom in the first round of the tournament. And we actually held our own. We lost, I think it was 21-16. So I shot well. I chose to throw against Tom just because if I'm going to get my ass kicked, at least I'm going to get my ass kicked by a pro.
Right.
And I also feel it's the only way I'm going to get better.
Yeah, it seems like Tom was on a mission.
He I don't even think he had to be on a mission, to be honest with you, because that's ridiculous. How good you have to be at that level is ridiculous. And we talked to Nico last week, and he said that, you know, being a pro doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to get paid to be one. But what I saw out of Tom on Thursday is that to be at that level, even if you're not getting paid, you have to be at a different level.
Oh, yeah.
So who would win, you, Nico, or Tom? Tell us you're kicking both of their asses.
I'm terrible. I don't even play, so you wouldn't want me to be in the mix.
You've got to talk yourself up a little bit.
Oh, okay, yeah. Those guys love playing each other. It's always a huge battle. Nico's gotten them a couple times lately, but they practice together all the time, and they really do good.
I mean, if you talk shit to Nico, I'm pretty sure he's not sending Tom to take your money.
I would hope not. That wouldn't go over too well.
So, Stephanie, tell me about when you go out to these tournaments. Like, what is your role when you're traveling around with Nico?
Well, it starts with like planning. I love like figuring out what hotels we're gonna stay in and what events we're gonna go to. I'm friends with a lot of the other wives and girlfriends where we're gonna go out to eat, that type of stuff. So that's super fun. And then at the actual events, I set up the streams. It kind of started that he wanted to like watch his matches back just to kind of improve or what he should have done different. Yeah, and then people are watching and, you know, communicating, and they're real supportive, and everyone's like, are you going to be streaming today? You know, what time are you going to be going, or when do they start? And now I'm actually also streaming for Titan Bags. So I get some of the other Titan guys, and when Nico's not playing, I'm kind of jumping around and getting Jay and Jordan and Hissner or whoever else is playing. And yeah, so it's pretty cool. There's a lot of feedback from it, you know?
Yeah, so we might have to actually talk off the air, because I tried setting up this stream in the basement this morning, and I've got camera views. People are telling me on YouTube they can't hear me. I've got this. I forgot to plug the damn mic into my computer, so I can't do that. Like, we might have to talk so that way you can give me some pointers on how to run a stream. Plus, we did do a live show from Bourbon Street that was a good show, but you could hear nothing but the bass going on in the background.
Well, sometimes Wi-Fi can be a challenge too, you know, so you're kind of at mercy. I'm actually in a hotel right now, so hopefully the Wi-Fi is okay.
Where are you guys at?
We went to the Blackhawks game last night, so we're in Chicago.
Okay, all right. Yeah, that was a tough game. Loss.
Yeah.
But they were down 6-2, and then I think they ended up losing 8-5. So they did make a little bit of a run there.
It's fun either way.
Fun game. Yeah, it is a fun, especially when they're scoring goals.
Where were you guys sitting?
Sure.
We actually had great seats. We were like, I think 18 rows up from center. So it was awesome.
Yeah. My favorite seats there are actually in the upper deck. We sit in section 321. And if you sit in row 9 or before, they're the best seats.
Yeah, we were 111, I think.
Yeah.
It's like bubble hockey.
So you guys are right down there. I've sat behind the glass. I've sat a little bit up. I just feel like in the Upper Deck in the 300 level, not only are you saving yourself a bunch of money, but you're also getting a view of the entire ice.
Right.
And I think it's a great time. I love the Blackhawks games. I love the atmosphere that the
Yeah,
Blackhawks
it's a
create,
great
especially when
energy.
they're good.
Yeah, it's a good time.
How do you feel about the anthem? Is that not the greatest anthem in the world?
It's amazing. It gives you goosebumps.
It does. It does. I'm a Marine, so like I've been there.
Thank you for
God.
your service.
Yeah, not a problem. I've been there probably about 10 times since they started doing the anthem like that. And every time it never fails, man. I have tears in my eyes every time.
Yeah, it's awesome.
So it is one of the greatest anthems. Johnny chimes in and says, Stephanie, are you going to stream for us live from Bourbon next week?
Actually, we're not going this week, but we're going the following Thursday. So yes, you will be there.
All right. Tell Nico that I'm coming for him because I want my money back.
All right, redemption.
What do you got?
I'll try to do the same. Yeah, I asked this. What is Nico traveling? I think he said he's traveling to New Mexico soon. Is that like one of the things you set up soon, or did you guys already travel there and you're already back from that?
That's at the end of the month. Actually, we'll be going to Bourbon Street, and the next day we fly out to Albuquerque.
Oh wow!
Yeah. So I'm excited for that. We haven't been there, and I think
Hopefully it's not
last
an
year.
early flight.
Yeah, last year was his rookie season, so this is just his second year. But I think we went to 18 states last year, so we were really getting around.
That's exciting. That's pretty
I love it.
exciting.
If you're going the day after Bourbon, I tell you, I work every Friday, and I go to Bourbon every Thursday. And I tell myself, you know what? I'm only staying for the first tournament because then I'll be home by 10 and I can get some sleep, and I got to be up
Doesn't
at
happen.
work at 5. I never get out of there before midnight.
Yeah, it'll probably be a late one for us.
Yeah, absolutely. At least you get to sleep on the flight, though, right?
Yes, that's true.
So, which tournament is in Albuquerque?
It's an open.
Okay.
So he's playing with Nate Stevens, so Tom can't go to that one. So he found a different partner, but usually him and Tom always obviously try to play together. They're pro partners. They're good friends too. But if one can't go, they find a different partner to still try to go, you know.
And what is an open for those of us that don't know?
So it's not only pros. So like a pro shootout, only the pros can play in. Pro shootouts are round limited. An open is not. You play to 21. So there's singles and doubles, both. And then there's usually like a blind draw the first night that we usually go to also. So it's a full weekend.
Okay. Now, I heard something interesting from Tom on Thursday is that they actually have some tournaments where it's bring a partner, but it's one pro and one non-pro.
Yeah, that's becoming, I feel it's becoming more common now. Nico's doing that this coming weekend, actually.
So now I'm disappointed because Nico didn't call me to play to be his partner.
Obvious reasons for that.
How does
Maybe
that
next
go
time.
now? Does Nico have a non-pro partner that do they try to find somebody who is looking to go pro, or do they just find some, you know, like your neighbor who you're close with, or like how do you choose a non-pro partner? And why didn't he choose you?
Oh God, he wouldn't want to be partners with me. That would not go well. He actually plays with his brother a lot. His brother Joe plays bags, but he's not pro, so they partner up together a lot on one pro only events. And then just, you know, based on skill, obviously there's a lot of really good players out there that aren't pro. So, you know, that's kind of the goal, obviously, is to win. And he found a good one. I think he's playing with Will Smith this weekend. He's a good kid.
Like, you better keep his wife's name out of his mouth.
Exactly.
Yeah, speaking of wives, you said that you befriend some of the wives on the tournament. Was that correct? I heard that. Is
Yeah.
there ever any animosity there? Is there cat fights that break out?
Surprisingly, yeah. Everyone's really, really supportive of each other. And actually went to the Blackhawks game with Mark Richards and Phil Lopez Jr. and their significant others. I'm really good friends with Shelby, Mark's girlfriend, and Brenda, Phil's wife. It wasn't even a cornhole weekend, and we were hanging out with them. So we're all really good friends, and it's like a little vacation, you know. It's like, okay, we're gonna fly in at this, or we'll get on the same flight, or we'll share an Uber, we'll share a Airbnb. So we really have made a ton of really good friends. So it's awesome. I love it.
It's kind of like the softball community in a way, right? So
Yeah.
or even like a men's league hockey, where And I've noticed this just by going to Bourbon Street, and I play, on Sundays at Huey McLafferty's over in Lamont,
Okay.
and everybody that goes to shoot is just supportive of one another. Now you get
It's
those
crazy.
guys who are competitive,
Mhm.
but even the guys who are competitive are pretty supportive if they get a partner who's not that good.
Right.
And they'll try to help you along. I sat down with Tom for probably about 35, 40 minutes at Bourbon Street the other night, just talking to him and picking his brain about bags. And he actually, I was throwing a stiffer bag. He watched me throw and said, "Hey, throw a looser bag." I throw a looser bag, and all of a sudden, I'm throwing lights out the rest of the night.
Yeah, it makes a difference.
Yeah, it's crazy the knowledge that the pros have. Now, being the wife of a pro, what is it like for you watching Nico grow as a pro?
It's impressive. So last year, like I said, it was his rookie year, so he did good, but he was kind of figuring things out, and he didn't really have nerves last year, but just kind of getting everything down. And this year, I'm just so excited because he's doing really, really good. He just won. There's a regional in Wisconsin. He won singles and doubles. Like, there was a lot of tough competition there, and it's just like I'm excited for the next event to see how well he's going to do. Like, he's ready and he's on a mission. He needs to get on TV this year, so that's his goal for sure. There's a team event they had a team event last year, but this year there was the draft and everything. So he's actually he's a co-captain. Mark Richards is captain and Phil Lopez Jr. is co, and they have a really strong team, and the draft was a super cool experience too. So it's so fun. It's impressive to see how they grow each event,
So, what advice would you have for wives of guys who are playing to try to go up? Because this could take up a lot of time. I know myself, even only throwing 2 days a week, I mean, it feels like it takes up some time from being at home with the wife or with the family or whatever the case is. And not to mention the money you're going to spend because you're at the bar playing, right? You're not like at an event. So it's easily $100 night no matter what.
Oh, yeah.
So what advice do you have for the wives of those guys that are trying to go the route that Nico has gone?
It's not easy, there's a lot of time that goes into it, and there's a lot of time that has to be dedicated to practice. And even like at an open New Year's Eve, we had New Year's Eve plans, and we were there. I think we were at the event for like 14 hours. We didn't even end up doing our New Year's Eve plans. Mark and Phil won doubles, so it was worth it. But we were just sitting there cheering them on. I mean, I think as far as a wife or a significant other, you have to really love the sport because you're going to be watching a lot of it. I love it more now that I know more of the strategy, and I kind of know like what throw they need to do or if they're going to block, so you get into it. But if you don't like the sport, it's going to be a rough road.
Oh boy. And
We're in trouble, Fitz.
Yeah, exactly. Since you watch a lot, and we're a sports show, so we talk about performance enhancing drugs. I'm going to ask my weekly question. Where do you think it's optimized? How many drinks in is a bags player the best? Is it 3 drinks? Is it 4 drinks? Is it 0 drinks? Is it drunk?
I think everybody's a little different. Nico's been trying to find his sweet spot.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, having a couple drinks, loosen up. But I think the big thing is drinking water, because anybody who's drinking for 12 hours, that's going to catch up with you.
Exactly.
But no, it's moderation. You definitely have to have the hand-eye coordination. You can't be, seeing double. That's not going to go over well. So yeah, it's just kind of mixing water and beer, I think.
Yeah.
So you said you get into a lot of the strategy. Now, do you ever watch Nico play, and then after he plays in a loss, are you like, hey, you should have done this, or why didn't you do this, to try to talk to him, or do you just leave him alone and let him be figured out for himself?
I tread lightly. So I don't play, so I certainly am not about to say I know everything. But after the dust settles, I'll say, so do you think, could have done anything different, he'd be like, oh, I knew I should have blocked, or I knew I should have done that. So we do talk about it, mostly just because he learns from it for next time. But I definitely don't give my advice too much in that type of situation.
Yeah, because you don't want Tom knocking on your door, right? That's
Right, he'll come for me.
Yeah, exactly. Johnny has a great idea here. Cornhole Wives presented by Southside Bags. Maybe we can get like events for all of the wives to just get together, or something like that. I mean, that's actually
Potlucks.
a great idea, because then maybe my wife will be okay with me going out more.
There you go.
I doubt that.
Oh, we have fun.
I know Michelle.
Easy now, Michelle's all right.
I'm kidding.
All right, so Craig says Stephanie Morales is killing it.
Hey, Craig.
So, Stephanie, before we let you go here, is there anything that you want to shout out? Anything that you want to promote? Anything you want to, even if it's just the kids you want to say hi to? Anything you want to do?
I do want to say, of course, thanks for all Nico's sponsors. We have a lot of local sponsors. He recently is now sponsored by Bust You Up Cornhole, so we're excited about that. But Titan Bags, they're an amazing company. We're really close with them. They're like a family, They started with the West Georgia Cornhole, and they make amazing boards and everything. And now we're really grateful. He was with Titan last year also, and so is Tom. So now they're partnered together with Titan. But
Yep.
we're grateful for them. They're really class act.
Yeah, I have 3 sets of bags. I have a set of NOLA bags, I have a set of wall slides, and I have my Titan Stampede 2.0s. And even though they're a really fast bag, those are my favorite bags to throw. I love throwing them. I feel the most comfortable with the Titan bag. So I really do.
And
like
they're
the Titan
reasonable,
bags.
it's good quality. They're not super expensive.
Right, yeah, and I actually got the Stampedes. The reason why is because Johnny put me on to a sale that they were having for Christmas, the 50% off the 12 days of Christmas sale. And that day I went on to look at them, and the Stampedes were like down to like $40.
Yeah.
So I got them, and I love them. So.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Stephanie, you were great tonight. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for joining.
Thanks, guys, for having me.
No
Please tell
problem.
Nico to have my money next Thursday.
All right, we'll see you guys then.
All right.
Yeah, sure.
All right, Stephanie, thank you. Let's bring our
Thanks,
boy
yeah.
Johnny back on. Johnny, you got anything for Stephanie before we go? Oh, you're on mute, buddy.
Hear me now?
Yeah, we
Yes.
got you.
All right, perfect. Stephanie, thank you very much for the lovely conversation. It was nice getting feedback from your perspective as a wife of a pro shooter. I think that you hit the nail on the head. Behind every good man, there's a good wife behind him. So I certainly can agree to that. I can attest to that. I wouldn't be where I'm at right now without the support of my lovely wife. So, Rosa, I know you're out there listening.
I'm with you too, because my wife just said she's still here. So I wanted to know that I have a great wife as well. We were not talking shit. I promise. I'm going to have to do dishes when I get home.
If you make it back, don't forget you're in Indiana.
Oh, come on, Johnny. Enough.
Stephanie,
I'm going to get you a socks pendant for your wall over there.
When I was driving in, Stephanie, I knew I was in Indiana because there was a liquor store next to a tattoo parlor, next to the children's place.
Oh my God. Interesting combo.
That's Indiana. I mean, that's how I knew I was here.
That's
And then also Fitz lives
And
here,
no
too,
pension crisis or anything.
that's fun.
All right, Stephanie, thanks for joining the show.
Thanks, guys.
Appreciate you.
Thank you.
All right, Johnny. So that was Stephanie Morales. She was great, man. That was a great
Yeah.
event. Thanks for getting that set up.
Absolutely.
And Johnny, we've actually on Thursday we found out that we have interviews lined up all the way to March or April. You have it set up?
Yeah, give me a second. Let me pull that up. We are all booked here for Star of the Week segment presented by Southside Bags on Man Hour Chicago. Yeah, so next week we have Tyler Buckhold, who's a former ACL pro, former ACL commentator. The following week we have the following week we have ACL pro Steven Bernasset. Great guy. February we're booked up. I don't want to share too much because I still wanted it to be kind of a surprise. We're pretty much booked all the way until April.
Yep.
April 16th. So I'm still
That's
reaching out.
awesome.
This, like I said, this happened really fast. I reached out to folks, and they instantly agreed. So kudos to
That's what I
you,
keep saying.
man.
This next community is great. Like everybody is willing to help out. Everybody wants to be a part of something. They want to help you grow, and I really appreciate everything about the bags community. I didn't know it was as tight as it was until I got into it.
Yeah, absolutely. I would agree with you. We wouldn't be where we're at without the community. I think, like I mentioned to you before, we're in this to develop players, and ultimately the goal here is to grow the sport, right?
Right.
There's been talk about cornhole being in the Olympics pretty soon, so that's definitely something to look forward to.
I'm going to the Olympics.
Yeah, okay.
Oh, dude, do you guys not know that the ACL is like worldwide? They're actually in Europe already. They're in Canada.
Wow.
It is huge. It is huge.
It's huge. China. It's in China too.
No.
Oh God.
I'm the best bean bags player.
All right, Johnny. So I'll be expecting my free buy-in since you invited Tom to take all our money on Thursday.
Shots on me next week. Fitz, be there.
All right.
All right, Johnny. Thanks for coming out, buddy.
Yep.
All right, guys, keep doing a great job.
Yep.
All right,
thank you, sir.
All right, so that was Johnny Torres and Stephanie Morales, man. Look, I like having that second, I guess that not even second. I like having the opinion of somebody who's not actually playing, but somebody who is supporting somebody who is playing.
Yeah.
And actually getting into it herself. Like this is something that it's something I've always wanted to do on Man Hour anyways, to get the female perspective of the sport, right? Like to get that,
or sporting in general.
Yeah,
Any
like,
sport.
It's interesting to hear what they have to go through to get to where they're at, right?
Yeah.
Now, like Stephanie isn't in the sport, but she's getting into the sport, right? She's streaming, she's doing play-by-play, she's learning all of the different nuances of the game. Is because her husband has the drive to be a pro, and I mean that says a lot about somebody.
Yeah.
So, maybe Michelle, who is watching the show now,
Oh,
so
boy.
angry on
You
Sundays
knew he
and
was going to
Wednesdays.
swindle this into something.
I'm joking. Michelle's great. She always, actually, last Sunday, I wasn't going to go play bags, and she actually kicked me out of the house to go play bags. So,
That's
I
great.
can't say enough about something like that. So.
That's great. My wife Nicole has us here in the house today, yelling in her basement.
Yeah, absolutely. And then afterwards, she's gonna put me to work.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, there's always something, but that's give and take, right?
Yep.
That's the married
Sure.
life, and as a married man, you learn how to do that.
Somewhat.
For me, after the first half of the game yesterday, I ended up having to watch Law and Order SVU and miss the Jaguars comeback.
There you go.
Give and take.
What is it? The 23rd season of Law and Order SVU?
Johnny says dishes and laundry when you get home.
Yep.
And it is the 20. I believe it's 23rd or 24th.
Yeah, there you go.
SVU.
My wife watches as well.
I actually like it.
Yeah, it's not bad.
We also
I like
watch
the original show.
Chicago PD, Chicago
Yeah,
Fire.
she watches all that. I don't watch a lot of it.
Dude, you got to get into PD is probably the best show out there right now.
I think it was Chicago Fire. I used to go to the bar that they use. It's Lottie's Bar on the north side. My buddy used to manage and bartend there. And it's a different name in Chicago Fire, I think. But they filmed a lot of it there. I don't know what they still do, but at the time they did. This is 6-7 years ago. Yep.
I know they've used my wife's uncle's house and I believe her cousin's house. And what they do, and it's crazy, they'll pay them a couple $1,000s to use their house. And what they'll do is they'll actually come in, they'll bring everything in your house out, put everything that they want in for a day, and then take all their stuff out, set your stuff back up, and you got a couple $1,000s just for them to use. Your
Key
house.
grips, yeah, bringing the stuff in and
They
out.
would come use my house every damn day.
Yeah, I knew you were gonna go there. It's like you're gonna be coming to the Combs house
Like I could
next.
just quit, and you guys could just use my house. To
You
fill
can
in
have
my
a fake
time.
murder on my lawn. I don't care.
Yes. Kill my neighbor.
Yes. You can have drug deals in my alley.
We already have one.
Yes. Just film it. It's like a documentary.
I live on the south side of Chicago. There's already drug deals, so why not get paid for it?
Yes, exactly.
Unbelievable.
You probably already are getting paid for those drug deals, but that's back to the felony.
We're live right now.
Yes.
At any rate, so we were talking about the Bears
Yep.
before we went to the interview, and this offseason is going to be very interesting. Now, before we get to the draft, we're going to have to go through free agency. So we're going to know heading into the draft really what we want the Bears to do. And we should have an idea of what they're going to do.
Yeah.
Because free agency is going to be huge this season for the Bears. They have about $40 million more than the second team has to spend.
Mhm.
What are your free agent? Who's on your wish list?
I did put a little bit of a wish list together.
Okay.
My first, you already mentioned. You took my thunder. You know
Jeremiah
I'm
says-
offensive line, defensive line. What?
Jeremiah says in Chicago, they probably just film. They don't have to stage any drugs.
No.
Sorry,
Just
go-
wait. Just set a camera up and wait.
Sorry,
Yeah.
that one cracked me up.
Jeremiah's an Excel sider, so he knows.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So the first one, Orlando Brown Jr., Kansas City Chiefs. Held out at the beginning of the year. He definitely did. They franchise tagged him. Obviously, he's a left tackle. And he's a left tackle for arguably the best quarterback in the league, or probably the best quarterback in the league, Patrick Mahomes. From week 10 to the end of the regular season, he's been great. He's been one of the best He's third best among left tackles. He's only 27 years old, or he's going to be 27 years old. He's 26. They already franchise tagged him. I read up a lot about this. They want him back. I don't see the Chiefs letting him go. There wasn't enough guaranteed money on the table for Orlando Brown. That's why he got a little pissed off. Then he finally came to training camp, finally was able to get with the team. Obviously started off slow because of that.
Yeah.
You know, might sound a little familiar here with the Roquan Smith thing, different side of the ball and all that. Would love to have him. He always grades great, no matter which grade you look at. He grades really well. He's a young guy. He still has years.
And he's an instant, humongous improvement
Yep.
from any player that we have on the line right now.
Yep. And he's a left tackle. That's absolutely what you need. And I know you don't like Braxton Jones, but he's not a bad backup. He's a serviceable backup. He's going to get better. He never played against talent like this before. He could be your backup. That's what teams have. They have backups like Braxton Jones or your, Larry Borums or whoever. Those are your backup guys. They're not your
those
starters.
guys as backup.
Yes, exactly. Play it 3 or 4
I'm not
games.
okay with those guys
Play a
as
couple
every
times.
down.
No. If you're in trouble, if they are, but you're okay if they play a couple games. You know what you have there. Maybe you change around the game plan a little bit at halftime or whatever. Maybe they play a half here, a game here. Offensive tackles and guards, and they're always getting hurt. So bring in Orlando Brown. That would be great. Might not happen. Number 2. Are we ready to go on to number 2, or do you have anything else you want to talk about?
Jeremiah said he graded one spot higher than Braxton Jones this year.
Really? Yeah, but still, I mean, I don't.
The eye test has to come into play.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's got to be Pro Football Focus, which sometimes I agree with, sometimes I don't. The eye test has to come to account a little bit.
Right, because it's the same thing if you look at the quarterback. Because we watched a quarterback last night in Trevor Lawrence, who since before the draft I've said is going to not be. I've had people tell me that if you went into a lab and built a franchise quarterback, you would build Trevor Lawrence. I said that you're nuts. Trevor Lawrence is not going to be a great NFL quarterback.
Yeah, I don't know. He could end up being great. Like it's hard to totally grade a guy in 2 seasons, but I mean, I don't see a
Did you
lot
see the
there.
4 interceptions in the first
I
quarter
don't
last
see,
year?
yeah, I mean, and a lot of bad balls. And why he doesn't have a lot of interceptions in the first quarter,
Right.
it kept saying that on there because all his plays are scripted in the first
Right.
quarter
But what
because
my
you have
point
to script plays for him.
what my point to that is that if you looked at the numbers, you would probably say that Trevor Lawrence graded higher than our boy Justin Fields this season. He had a 98% or 98.7 quarterback rating this year, right?
Mhm.
But your eye test tells you he's not better than Justin Fields.
No, I would say it, if any, I mean, I'd say it's probably even right now or close to even right now. I mean, the guy threw the ball, what was it, 507 or yeah, it was 577 times.
Yeah.
Justin Fields had 318 attempts.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying about
Like,
the
come on.
Braxton Jones and Orlando Brown thing is you've just got to you've got to use your eyes. Sometimes
Yeah.
numbers aren't as good as football IQ.
And I know Mahomes is obviously first a passer, but he does move around really well. You can call him sort of a running quarterback. You wouldn't totally. I call him, and hi, Tom. I told my brother-in-law that he's kind of a running quarterback, and he went, he's a running quarterback. He throws for 4,500 yards. But he does run the ball, and a lot of his better plays are when he's running on his feet. That's how he makes some plays. But how are you grading a Braxton Jones with a guy like Justin Fields, who's arguably one of the best running quarterbacks ever, or had the best running quarterback seasons ever? How are you really grading him? I mean, are we talking about, how many times there's times where Braxton Jones did not block a guy, but he didn't get sacked. I mean, I know they get tested on hurries, on all that, but he didn't give up that many sacks or however you want to grade him. Well, maybe Justin Fields slipped out of about 4 or 5 sacks.
Well, you need to tell your brother that when it's all said and done.
This is my brother-in-law, by the way.
Oh, so it's not
Tom. It's not John. It's Tom.
Well, we need to get the message over to John that when it's all said and done, Justin Fields is going to be better than Joe Montana. Just let him know that.
Or at least I think we could say he might be better than Bryce Young.
Yeah.
At least, we could say that. But
so who's second on your list?
Second on the list, Darren Payne, who we've talked about many times before. This is more realistic to me.
Except Washington has said that they're going to do whatever it takes to bring him back.
I've heard that. But yeah, I mean, they did give, they don't have a lot of cap space left, but they're probably going to get, they're probably going to move on from Carson Wentz, and then they get some cap space off there.
Then I think it becomes, does Darren Payne want to be a part of that organization? Because let's just face it, that organization is in dumpster fire mode right now. Do you want to be there?
And they already gave a deal away to a defensive tackle, Allen, who even said, there's even quotes of him saying, like, look, I love Payne, but I said, you do what you have to do for yourself.
Yeah.
Washington currently has $7.2 million in cap space, but can gain $26.2 million by releasing Carson Wentz. Maybe franchise tag him. Jonathan Allen was 4 years, $72 million extension. Are they going to have 2 tackles? Because you think Payne, who picked a great time in his 25-year-old season, career high in sacks, 11.5 sacks, 18 tackles for loss, which led the league at that position. I mean,
yeah,
this is your 3 technique.
Yeah.
I mean, am I wrong? This is your Tommy Harris. This is your Warren Sapp. They might not be comparable to not be as good as a Warren Sapp, Hall of Famer. But if he's 80-90% of that, you take that every day. And I don't know if Washington's going to have the money. I mean, they're going to be moving around a lot of money.
They're trying to sell.
Yeah, I mean, I just don't see.
You don't spend when you're trying to sell, right? Like you don't, like you spend a little bit, right? Like if you're selling your house, you might repaint, maybe redo a little bit of flooring here.
Yeah.
There, but you're not.
You're putting lipstick on a pig.
Yeah, you're not renovating.
I just sold a house a year and a half ago.
Right. And so
yeah.
I think Payne is the equivalent of a renovation. Right?
Yeah.
Like you're going to pay him a lot of money. So maybe he doesn't stay in Washington. And that would be, I mean, look, that would be huge. I think you would have to overpay all of these guys that are going to be on your list. I think you're going to have to overpay to push the envelope of, hey, we're rebuilding, but in 2 years we're going to be really, really good, and you're going to want to be a part of this. So I think you're going to have to maybe either give that extra year or give that extra $5 million,
or
to
give
these
more
guys.
money and guaranteed money. That's why. You know, my number one, Orlando Brown, said he didn't get enough guaranteed money. That's why he didn't want to do it. Now, I don't see the best quarterback in the league losing his left tackle at 27 years, who's going to be 27. He's 26 now, but possibly to sign to franchise tag Darren Payne. It's $18.96 million. That's just an estimate on what a defensive tackle at the top of his game, which this guy's at the top of his game, top 3 defensive tackle is going to get. With their salary cap, I mean, they're gaining 26 mil with Carson Wentz, but there ain't much left to do anything after that.
All right.
I mean, you already have.
We've got Orlando Brown and Darren Payne, man. I'm pumped so far.
because you think you're going to get Johnston out of this.
So who's number 3?
Number 3, and I put him here just for age. You probably think I'm going to say McGlinchey, but I'm going to say Caleb McGarry of the Atlanta Falcons.
Okay.
I don't know if you've seen a lot of his play. You know, played pretty well against the Bears. I went back and looked a little bit of film on that. There wasn't a lot there.
He plays for the Falcons, so it's safe to say nobody's seen a lot of this guy play.
Yes, exactly. They may consider franchise tagging him. That'd be 18 mil for them. McGarry's a 19.6 run blocking grade. That's even better than Orlando Brown Jr. He is a right tackle, though. So that's a little different. His run blocking's great. He's got a very positive game there. He's trailing only Trent Williams in the run blocking, which that's what you want your right tackle to be.
So if you sign a right tackle, though, what are you doing? What are you doing with your current right tackle? What are we doing with
Alex Leatherwood?
No, not Leatherwood.
Larry Borum?
The other kid that they don't like.
Larry Borum.
No, not Larry Borum. The kid that they drafted last year, number 76. He was out with a bad back. Why can't I think of his name right now? He's my favorite offensive tackle.
Tevin Jenkins?
Tevin Jenkins.
Yeah, well, they're shifting him over to guard. They're shifting him over to guard for sure. He played a lot more guard than right tackle this season. He had to fill in for right tackle for a few games, but I think he's going to be a guard. He likes it there. I think he's going to be your guard. I don't know what Cody Whitehair is going to be at. I did not have a guard on here. I would not put a guard on here just because I think you can get a guard. You can get a guard in the 3rd or 4th or 5th round. You can get a guard off a team. You know, guards are available.
So we're beefing up our left tackle, our right tackle, and a defensive tackle so far in your top 3.
Yes.
I like where you're going with this, not just because of the Quentin Johnston thing, but it's really setting up well for what I want the Bears to ultimately do in the draft.
And I think the more we were talking about Quentin Johnston, the more that you kind of convinced me to get if you can get a line that has some experience here. And for the Bears, it's probably better than bringing some rookies in and having them start to work together. And now you have a whole another year. You have to wait for these guys to work together. If you can get these guys in here, and the reason why I have them 3, except for my number 4, is because I think the Falcons are probably going to be willing to let him go.
Right. And if you do the trade that I was talking about with Houston to move to 2, and then you give the Colts to 2 to move to 4, and then you also have the 12 from Houston, you're still in position at 4 to either be able to get Will Anderson or maybe even Jalen Carter to beef up that defensive line. And then
Jalen Carter.
Quentin Johnston will be
his first name.
It's not what I said.
No, you said Jalen Carter. I just keep forgetting his first name.
Yeah. But that is the guy, Quentin Johnston at 12. I think is the guy, if he's still there. Now, he's still got to be there. You might have to take that 12 and try to find somebody who's willing to trade up. You might have to. You've got to come out of this draft with Quentin Johnston. You just have to. He's the best wide receiver in the draft, I believe. A lot of people argue with Njigba from Alabama. I think he's the best wide receiver in this draft. I think that to pass on a 6'6", 215 guy with breakaway speed and great hands is just foolish, but it's typical Bears.
Yeah.
So who's number 4?
Number 4 is Mike McGlinchey. I got him number 4 behind McGarry only because I don't know if the 49ers are going to get rid of him. He does really well in that Kyle Shanahan's wide zone rushing attack, where the Bears do use a wide zone rushing attack a lot. He's, his run blocking is really good. More of a right tackle than a left tackle. Definitely. I don't know if he's played a lot of left tackle with San Francisco. I think it's mostly right tackle. The only reason why I have him number 4 is I don't know if they're going to franchise tag him in San Fran. Still has room to grow, though, as a pass protector as well. So that might be another reason why. McGarry was a better pass protector than McGlinchey, just, like a shade better. But the warning signs there for McGarry, my number 3, again, is that he was on a team that was very run heavy. So, take that with a grain of salt. So I don't know what you think about McGlinchey. You've mentioned him a lot of times. It's because he's ex-Notre Dame, probably. He can coin Chase Claypool and Kmet on the offensive side of the ball.
Yeah. So I like McGlinchey a lot, not just because of the Notre Dame aspect of it, but I like McGlinchey a lot because he's just a good offensive lineman. Mm-hmm. And that ultimately is what we need here. And Jeremiah brings up a good point. So do we actually have to be stronger in the middle? I think with a mobile quarterback who can avoid outside pressure, it's up the middle that screws up their game.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I couldn't agree with him more, but I don't know if I'm going to put a guard or a center here, especially when you got Cody Whitehair, who's always been a good guard. We'd have to check his contract.
Quentin Nelson with a trade in the draft.
Yeah, you could do that too. He's going to be. I don't know if he's going to be the centerpiece of any. He's not going to be the centerpiece of any trade, but that would be great too. Yeah, you definitely probably need a center as well. Still not going to crack my top 5. I want on the ball defensive players and I want tackles. For Christ's sake, the last good left tackle we had is who? Reuben Brown? Maybe? That goes back like 15 years.
It's uncharted territory for the Bears because they've never focused on good offenses. When was the last time we have sat here going into an offseason where we've said the focus needs to be on the offensive line and wide receiver to help out your franchise quarterback because we want to have a top 5 offense? We are always talking about defense in the draft. Let's get this cornerback. Let's beef up the secondary. Let's get a middle linebacker. Let's do what we got to do because that's Bears football. Run the ball, pound the ball, control the clock, and play bend but don't break defense. Like that's the Bears franchise in a nutshell. But now we've got a chance that if we do this the right way, maybe not next year, but within the next 2 years, this could very possibly be the Chicago Bears being a top 5 offense in the NFL.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's definitely possible. There was times this season where I don't know if they weren't a top 5 offense, but they cracked the top 10 in a 5-6 game stretch there for sure. We've gone through the numbers. They were at the top of the league in long plays throughout the season. I don't see that being And I wanted edge rusher in the first round too. So yeah, I'm probably, it's that hostage mindset. I've been hostage for the Bears so long, but I think you need that. But yeah, building inside out. They've not done that. They have not done that once. And you have all these years where 30 to 40% of the payroll is going to the offense and 60 to 70% is going to the defense. Olin Kreutz talks about it all the time. With his career here, there was never a time where they were paying more for offense, even with Jay Cutler here. There was never a time they were paying more for offense than they were for defense. There's never a time. They're always piecing together a line. There's always some guy, there's always a Braxton Jones. There's always a Larry Borum. There's always a guy who's later in the draft that they're trying to say, oh, he's got all this ability that never pans out.
Yeah.
Or you get guys like Chris Williams who come in with a bad back. Who they get in the first round, or Gabe Karimi, who never could play.
Right.
Who never could really play.
Who's your number 5?
My number 5 is Marcus Davenport, New Orleans Saints. has a lot of ability, still young, had an injury-shortened season. This is the other side. If you're going to get an edge rusher in the draft, this is probably your other side of the edge rusher. It has had 9 sacks before. The only problem with him is he's yet to log 600 snaps in a season. 17.8 pass rush win rate. He's, top 20 in that. Very respectable run defensive grade. He's probably on your other side or in the rotation there. You do need an edge rusher.
Okay.
I do have a mention. I do have kind of a number 6 too, which you'll be kind of happy about
Who's your number
because he's a
6?
wide receiver who's probably not going to go back to the New England Patriots, but he's a number 2 or 3. You don't want me to say Jacoby Myers?
No, because we've already got 2 Jacoby Myers on the roster.
Well, I don't
And
know.
he's not a number 1.
I don't
We've
know if
already
Chase
got-
Claypool is a
Chase
Jacoby
Claypool
Myers.
is Jacoby. What do you mean? They're the exact same.
He's
wide receiver.
taller and bigger, much bigger than Jacoby Myers. That would be the difference. Jacoby Myers is 190 pounds.
Darnell
Chase Claypool is
Mooney,
230.
We don't need Jacoby Myers. We need a number 1. If you're going to get a wide receiver, you need to go out and get DeAndre Hopkins in a trade with Arizona. Like, that is the only way I see that, because you can't do it with the free agent wide receivers.
I will tell you that it'll never happen, but I know they might be looking for a quarterback. That DK Metcalf thing is, wow. That guy. Remember when he couldn't catch? He is a grown ass man. Do not give me
He's
the
been a grown ass man since he was in the 7th grade.
he was buying beer for his 7th grade.
He is a freak
beast.
of nature.
That is a
And
thing.
I watched some of the catches that he made yesterday against San Francisco. Breakaways, like, what are you giving Seattle though? Is my question. I'm not giving up number 1.
Well, yeah, I mean, we're not just straight up and then we swap picks. No way. I'm going to need a first rounder in 24 as well. Maybe even a 4th or 5th rounder. I don't know if they're willing to.
I mean, Geno played well this year.
Yeah, he did. He was top in completion percentage this year, but and he has a decent long ball. But I don't know if they think he's the answer.
Minimize your value with the number 1 pick. God,
I don't think they're ready to give him up.
Is this something you read or something you saw?
No. I just saw DK Metcalf. I know that Seahawks might be looking for a quarterback. They've already talked about, maybe trades with the Seahawks. I know they're down. Their first round pick is down. What is Jeremiah saying now?
They offered Olin $15 for a coaching gig.
$15 an hour? I heard that. And then George McCaskey said that didn't happen. Only with the
Olin
Bears.
doesn't strike me as a guy who's going to lie.
No, he doesn't. No, I believe him. Unless CTE. I mean, but no, I believe him. Yeah, $15 an hour.
$15 an hour.
I know.
That's kind of
unbelievable.
Like I've heard of lowballing players just to get them to go away, but
is that Ted
$15,
Phillips?
Like,
is
I
that
make more than $15 an hour?
Did he even ask for the job?
I don't.
I mean, I have to. I believe Olin though, and I believe that's a Bears story, right?
Yeah.
Right there, that's a Bears story.
Yeah.
Fucking over an ex-player, and then you bring him back into the fold, and then it's still kind of awkward and weird.
Yeah. I don't.
Yeah.
Man.
And that whole family, and I agree with you. I don't want to wish anybody death, but that whole family is weird. They're not really into football.
So, do you like the new president? Do you think that? Do you give George McCaskey kudos for bringing in?
No, because I don't think he's the one that. I think someone told him to do it, like everything else they do. I mean, but I think it's a good pick. I mean, he did the stadium in Minnesota.
Did you ever think that the McCaskey family would get to a point where, and I know this is always a tough subject, so don't be adding me in my DMs. Don't be sending me these emails asking why am I talking about this. Did you ever think that this organization would get to the point where we had a black president and a black GM and a black franchise quarterback?
No, I don't know. I actually agree with you for once. I think that yeah, I think it is shocking. And I think this might some of this might be purposeful. Not the Justin Fields thing. He was
Yeah.
the guy at that point. He was the quarterback that they were going to get at that point. Who else were they going to get? And thank God. Thank Christ the Jets got Zach Wilson. Are you trading up for Zach Wilson? I mean, oh my God. And then
We did trade up to get Trubisky.
yes, we did. But I have to say Trubisky is probably going to have a better career than Zach Wilson.
Yeah, I like the hiring of Kevin Warren. I like the direction in which the Bears are headed. I think that it's showing a lot of progression, and I'm not even talking about progression in the sense of minority president and minority GM and minority quarterback. What I'm talking about is progression in the fact that the Bears are showing for the first time since I can ever remember of actually wanting to be a winning franchise.
Yeah.
You bring in Kevin Warren to primarily do the stuff on the outside with the new stadium in Arlington Heights.
That's going to be his main job. Yeah.
Can't wait. Can't wait for that. But you also take George McCaskey out of the picture with major football decisions because now you've got Kevin Warren, who did an amazing job with the Big Ten, even though there was a lot of people that were probably happy that he left the Big Ten because they didn't like the way he handled the COVID situation. But you bring in Kevin Warren, and that gives somebody for Ryan Poles to go to other than George McCaskey. And I think that for Bears fans, we've never seen anything like that before.
No, we haven't. I mean, we haven't seen them make actually good, rational decisions. Ted Phillips, 40 years with the team? What did he ever really do?
Yeah.
That's the thing. Who's in charge? What are they doing? What are their responsibilities? I think there is set responsibilities now, actually. Now, if the White Sox can get their act together, no. But anyway, yeah, I think there are set. But I mean, I think we're done on that topic. I think you're kind of delaying because you are on the clock. You said you were going to give me a couple of trade options. You might have said a few. You had the DeAndre Hopkins one. Everybody's talking about that. So you are on the clock, sir.
So
what trade? And you could say trade down. I mean, it'd probably be better if you had a player in mind. You did say Quentin Nelson, so you might have already mentioned some of this. But give me, I know there's something weird going on in that brain of yours.
So
that's never going to happen.
My number one trade option for the Chicago Bears, and this is exactly how I want to see it go down, is the one that I talked about with Houston. Give Houston the number 1 for the number 2 and the number 12.
Yeah.
You flip the number 2 to Indianapolis. You ready?
Yeah.
For the number 4, a second round, and Michael Pittman. So now you've got Michael Pittman Jr., you've got Chase Claypool, you've got the number 4, and then if Quentin Johnson isn't available at 12, that's okay because you can go get Njigba and still have your wide receiving core set. You've also got extra draft picks. I think Indy would do it. I think Indy would be willing to give up a wide receiver that might not be as relevant once their quarterback that they draft is ready to go.
Yeah, exactly. That's not a bad. That's actually not a bad one, and you get a lot of draft capital back in return. I don't think, and you don't necessarily need a set number 1 wide receiver, or maybe one of these alpha dogs becomes that number 1 wide receiver. So, I mean, there's a couple of them that I think would have, if that's your wide receiver class, that would have that ability. You can have a bunch of number 2s and still be terrific. I mean, Aaron Rodgers did it for years. When did Aaron Rodgers have really a number 1? I guess Jordy Nelson was a number 1 wide receiver. Davante Adams, yeah, you're right. Later in his career.
Yeah, but early in his career, he had What was the? Dude, he's had so many. I hear people say all the times that he didn't have weapons. That's just an excuse.
You can have a bunch of twos and a three. You could have 2 or 3 twos and a three. You don't need to necessarily have a number one wide receiver. Not a lot of teams have that. I mean, do they?
I mean, look, a lot of people will say that you didn't, but so that's where. So you had Jordy Nelson, he had Randall Cobb, he had Devontae Adams.
Randall Cobb was not a number one.
People forget that he had Greg Jennings.
True.
They've always had an offensive line. They've always had good run games. Like, he's had weapons. He's just not that guy after January 20th. Right? Like, he's going to lose in the NFC Championship game every single season.
I think
it's not that he hasn't had weapons. It's that he melts down in the NFC title game for whatever reason. I don't know why. I think Aaron Rodgers is top 5 quarterback of all time.
Yeah.
I think he's one of the greatest that we've ever watched play the game. If it wasn't for Tom Brady, I might be saying Aaron Rodgers is the GOAT.
Yeah.
Even with only the one Super Bowl win that came only because, Jay Cutler decided to ride a bike in the third and fourth quarter. But
I don't. He didn't have a running game that year, Aaron Rodgers.
Weapons, though. You can't say that.
Yeah, but I mean, a solid number one. I guess Devontae Adams. I mind fart.
Jordy Nelson. Like, I mean, would you have killed for the Bears to have had a guy like Jordy Nelson?
Yeah, I probably would have, but I don't know if I would have had him in my top 5 in a lot of the years of his career and of wide receivers. I'm not sure.
Well, he played a lot of years where Randy Moss and
exactly.
You know what I mean? Like,
exactly.
But that it's still not to say that Jordy Nelson wasn't a number one wide receiver and a great target. And not to mention you had Jordy Nelson and Randall Cobb on the same damn team.
You did, but Randall Cobb was never a number one.
But aren't Jordy Nelson and Randall Cobb the equivalent of Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle right now? If you had
but I wouldn't compare Randall Cobb to Tyreek Hill. That is a different thing. If you had them in their
prime and you had Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle right now, take those 2 wide receiver cores, you'd probably be able to compare them to the 2. You'd probably
they're comparable. They're comparable. I think Miami's got something a little bit better, but they're comparable. Yeah, I'd go with that.
So to say that he's never had weapons, I hear people say that argument all the time, and I'm always like, stop it. He's had weapons. Aaron Rodgers has had weapons. You want to talk about quarterbacks that never had any weapons? Well, we gave Jay Cutler Devin Hester for 2 years.
True. True. He did get Brandon Marshall.
Of all time. He should be in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
He wasn't a good wide receiver. I mean, he had Brandon Marshall, who was a nutbag.
Couldn't really retain a playbook.
No. Yeah, and couldn't run routes. I mean, he was not a great route runner. He would go up and get the ball, though. He wasn't afraid to take it.
And I think it took away from his return game too, which I don't know if that was ever the best idea. So
yeah, absolutely. All right, so we've talked about the Bears off season. We've been going for about an hour and a half now. We knew this was going to be a long episode just because we had a lot we wanted to get to, and so I applaud Jeremiah for hanging in there. Michelle is probably taking a nap at this point. She's probably so bored by everything that we're talking about. Speaking of being bored, I bored the hell out of her yesterday, right? Because this is Cubs convention.
There we go.
And I woke up at 9 o'clock in the morning yesterday, and I was like, all right, I want to see what the fans are going to bring to the Ricketts family.
It was your Christmas morning, 3 weeks late.
Yeah, probably. To be honest with you, I was probably more excited for this than I was for Christmas morning.
Sliding across the wood floor in your socks.
Underwear. Like the whole
running towards the TV.
I love the convention idea. I love it. I think it's a great spot for fans to be able to listen to things that they normally wouldn't be able to listen to. And they can interact with it, right? Like they get to ask questions. They're dumb questions. you get 1 out of every 6 that is actually a good question that you're like, hey, thanks for asking that question. Yeah. I don't know if they vet them ahead of time. I've never been to a Cubs convention.
Well, at least on the White Sox side, they didn't. You just walk up to the mic.
And that's, I like that, right? And that's why I'm going to the Cubs convention next year.
Well, there you go.
I'm going to be the first one. I'm going to find out where the mic is at. And I'm going to be there 2 hours early, and I'm going to sit right next to the damn thing. So I'll be the first one in line every time they say line up to ask questions.
Chad?
Yeah. No, it's
Brandon Combs from the South Side?
No, there's going to be some tough questions why didn't the Sox do? Why is this
I was gonna s-
primarily?
I was gonna say convention. What's that?
Was this primarily for the White Sox because they wanted to shield the front office from what they were going to be? Because if I'm a Sox fan and I'm going to the Sox convention, I'm going to have a field day with the front office.
3 years of having great PR, great marketing. Well, they always do great marketing, but great PR. You know, they have a guy who really hadn't proven himself doing a spread on Sports Illustrated. I mean, changed the game. I mean, like I said on one of our podcasts, it wrote itself. The marketing, probably the most exciting team in the league, if not top 3 at the time. And then they make them boring, and they bring in, like I said, Nosferatu scrotum,
Yeah.
and he, walks guys on 1-2 counts. But whatever. I don't want to talk about that again. But I guess that's why. I
There's
don't
no other
know.
reason.
It just shakes. You just shake your head at it. I don't think. I think one of the main things is that Jerry Reinsdorf knows that the diehard fans are going to come no matter what. That this isn't going to change a lot. There's not a lot of fans that are going to leave. There's always going to be. I mean,
And
there's
they
a lot of
shouldn't.
there's a lot more fans now saying sell the team anyway. Maybe they are scared of getting bad feedback. They've treated that way. They've treated their way
They're
that way
getting bad
before.
feedback now.
What's that?
They're getting bad feedback now.
Yeah. Yeah, no. I mean, exactly. But they don't have to face it. That just doesn't sound right. Maybe there's something going on here that they don't want to admit. But they're always like, stay out of White Sox business and all that crap. And yeah, we're very insular.
But we are White Sox business.
I
The
know.
fan base is White Sox business. Like, and I don't see any other reason to not have it other than the fact that you're avoiding the questions that you're going to have to answer from the fan base
About
about
Tony La Russa.
the idiotic hiring of Tony La Russa, about the fact that you've had probably the best roster in the American League on paper, other than maybe the Yankees, over the last 2 years, and you've done nothing but underachieve.
Totally
And why
underachieved.
wasn't a move made at the All-Star break last year, as opposed to September, when you didn't really have a shot at the division anyway? And once you made that move, it actually showed progress. The players responded to that,
Mhm.
and you could tell
With
all
Miguel
season
Cairo.
long, from April until September, when they finally let Tony La Russa go for medical reasons.
Pacemaker.
You
They
finally
turned on the microwave in his
you could
hotel
tell,
room.
Yeah, you could tell in that time though, right? That
Yeah.
they didn't want to play for him. You could tell TA was upset. You could tell that they weren't giving their all. You could tell Moncada wasn't playing 110% all season long, and it really shook at that Twin series in September. But you could tell that there was a problem. And the perfect time to do that would have been at the All-Star break, when I believe they were only like 5 or 6 games out, right?
Yeah.
That was the time to get rid of him. And I don't think that they wanted to answer those questions.
In a very bad division too. Probably the most passive aggressive team out there. It's like, and they say they don't care or think about what the people on the radio are saying or what fans are saying, and they try to shield themselves from that. It's like somebody it's like a boxer who gets punched and says, oh yeah, that hit didn't hurt me.
Yeah.
Well, you wouldn't have said anything if it didn't hurt you.
Right.
Like, and this is how they're reacting. It's ridiculous. I mean, it's got to get you fired up as a fan, because I went to the Palmer House one year and I asked Ozzie Guillen why they had 3 shortstops. At the time, they had 3 shortstops. They had Juan Uribe. I forget all the shorts. Orlando Cabrera, Juan Uribe. I forget the third guy.
Yeah.
He might have had a rookie coming up, and he gave like a canned answer. I was probably one of the guys. Ozzie. I'm sorry to ask this question, but anyway, I mean, why not do it? I just don't get it at all. I don't have much for you here. I usually do, but I don't have much for you here. It's that they're very passive aggressive.
Did you catch any of the Cubs convention? Did you happen to turn it on at all?
A little bit. When you were texting me about it, I did for a little bit.
Okay.
Just because you said Mark Grace was on with Cody Bellinger, all
Right.
that. And I
Yeah.
love hearing him talk about hitting. Most hits in the 90s,
Yeah, and
Mark Grace.
I feel like just the way that the Cubs did it was phenomenal for the fans, right? Like for me, I'm a nerd with it all, like right. Like I sat there and I was just and Michelle's sitting there next to me and she's just on her phone, bored as hell.
Yeah.
And I said, you don't find this interesting at all? And she's like, no, it's stupid. And I'm like, I was so excited, right? Like I had the sports chub all day long. And listening to guys like that talk like that, you don't get to hear that. And then you get to interact with them and ask them questions. So I really liked it. Though when they had the Ricketts family on, fans kept going back to it. And you could tell Ricketts was getting annoyed with it. And it was the Sammy Sosa conversation. And they announced earlier that they're going to have the Sandberg statue, and Grace and Dunston were being inducted in the Cubs Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
And so fans kept asking about when is Sammy coming back. And Ricketts says, after the last fan asked it, he goes, so we're back to the Sammy thing. He says, okay, listen. He's like, I think that there are two sides to every story. He's like, and we have our side and he has his side and blah, blah, blah. The one way that I've never heard it asked, and I've said this for, God, since I've been doing podcasting and even before, the one way nobody ever puts it, and I would love to hear it, and this is the way I'm going to put it next year when I go and I'm talking with Mr. Ricketts. Push Sammy aside. Let's take Sammy Sosa out of the equation. Let's talk about the steroid era as a whole.
Yeah.
Baseball knowingly made billions of dollars off of the steroid era, which brought baseball back from obscurity because of the 94 strike. And they made billions off of it over the course of probably about 10 seasons before the Mitchell Report came out. Yet baseball casts itself aside like, we didn't know. Even though Sammy Sosa and Barry Bonds were your size when they entered the league.
Yes.
And when they exited the league, their forearms were your size.
Their shoe size changed. That doesn't happen.
The hat size was like 4 sizes bigger. They knew that this was going on.
Yeah.
But they cast themselves as the good guys in this position. And now all the players are paying the price. So what I want to know from Mr. Ricketts is, how does baseball get a free pass at this? And the players are just the worst human beings to ever live and not allowed to be in the Hall of Fame and not allowed to be, part of their teams anymore.
Yeah, I mean, I think everybody's thought of PEDs has evolved through the years. I mean, at first it was like, no, get them out of the league and all that. I think I agreed with that back then. But now, as you look at it, like, you can't blackball these guys. I mean, it's performance enhancing drugs. They're not, everybody's still doing it. I mean, if you look at the UFC, even before they started their drug testing now, everybody was doing it 10, 20 years ago in the UFC. You could bounce around the leagues. A lot of people say that everybody in the NFL is on steroids. 90% of the NFL is. I mean, a lot of people are, especially to come back off injuries. You come back off an injury, you cycle down, you pass the drug test, boom, you're back in the league. Some guys get caught up in that. Maybe they lose, they get, plugged for it. Obviously, Tatis got plugged for it this past year. 40 years of support, sitting in a stadium by myself. They got to win me back. That's got to be Jeremiah talking about the White Sox. Yeah, I mean, and I'm not going to fault. I normally, if this was 2 or 3 years ago, I would fault Jeremiah, but I can't right now. I can't.
I think go to a Sox game at any time of the year, even if they're 90 games above 500, and you could talk to your friend in right field while you're sitting.
Unbelievable! Actually, their attendance has gone up, especially the last 3 years.
Like 300 to about 600.
Even they've been above 2 million. They've been above 2 million since 2019. I mean, 2020 you can't even talk about, and the beginning of 21, you could only have 10,000 fans in for a month and a half, which didn't make any fucking sense at all. But anyway, that's aside. But I mean, they do have a lot more fans coming to the game now. I don't know if at the end of last year they did. I didn't look at the numbers, but even in 2019 when they sucked, they had some guys, they had some people showing up. So it's gotten a little bit better, but I still hear you there. It's you know how the South Side is, man.
They should.
The South Side is taking a lot of hits. Let's just say that as a whole.
They have.
And you don't have fans coming in watching the White Sox usually from Iowa.
Right.
Or from, Ohio
Right.
or Michigan. You usually don't, unless
Right.
they're coming for a Detroit Tigers game.
Right. And if you're coming to Chicago to visit, you want to see Wrigley. Like you don't want to go to the South Side, get robbed, and
You could drive by Wrigley. That's probably better.
Yeah, and if you go to the Comiskey, you're gonna get in the middle of a drive-by.
Come
Completely
on.
different thing. But
It's a good stadium.
so
No.
if you're baseball and you're not allowing these, and it's not even baseball, right? Because the Hall of Fame is its own entity.
Yeah.
Major League Baseball has no say on who goes in or who doesn't go in the Hall of Fame. It's the sports writers who are 90% jackwagons, right? I kill Virginia McCaskey. There's a lot of sports writers that I would like to kill off,
Yeah.
and just have them go on their way. When you look at it from a realistic perspective, a guy like Barry Bonds, have you ever seen a guy walk to lead off an inning in a one-run game? That happened to Barry Bonds 3 times in the 2002 season.
I know. He was walked with the bases loaded.
In 2004, I believe it was, he had more times on base than he had at bats.
Jeez. Yeah, no, I saw that stat. If you look at his OPS and his slugging percentage in those years, it's ridiculous.
He's the most feared hitter of all time. And he's not in the Hall of Fame. You're going to omit an entire era. And I don't even say an entire era. They've omitted all the guys they didn't like.
Yeah.
And that's what boggles my mind about the steroid era is it's only the people that you didn't like.
Yeah, because Andy Pettit's okay.
Yeah. Big Papi.
Big Papi was named in a Mitchell report, and he popped on a piss test. Yeah.
He's in the Hall of Fame. He was the first ballot Hall
He's
of Famer.
Likable.
Yes.
Likability counts for something in this world.
And
especially in this
Barry
country.
Bonds was an asshole to the media. He was an asshole. He had a good reason to be an asshole to the media because of what he watched his father go through with the media.
Yep.
But to omit an entire era in baseball history is just foolish, and that's why I still have not taken the trip. And we every winter we drive through New York to get to Vermont to go see the kids, and every winter I'm like, man, it'd be cool to stop at the Hall of Fame because we drive right past it. I won't go until they let these guys in. The Hall of Fame.
Wow, the river runs that deep, huh?
I can't. It just doesn't make sense. Like there is an entire. Not only that, but it was an era that I was kind of growing up in that I love. I mean, that summer of '98.
Yeah, it was cool. I have to say, I wasn't a Cubs fan. I did not like the Cubs back then or their fans, but I loved the race.
You were still watching every moment of that race from July on. Every fan in baseball, even if you would, no matter if you were a Sox fan watching the Cubs, if you were a Cubs fan watching Cardinals games, if you were just a fan from the West Coast or the East Coast, you were tuning in every night to see these guys hit home runs.
Yeah, and I was the guy, even though I thought they were on steroids even then, I was the guy going, well, Mark McGwire hit 49 home runs his rookie year.
Yeah. And Bonds hit 50 that year. A lot of people don't know. Bonds hit 50 that year.
Yeah.
And nobody knew it because these guys were chasing 60.
Yeah, Griffey was in the race for a little bit. He got hurt. Yeah. That's when his body started to break down a little bit.
The greatest summer of baseball of all time. And it's not in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, Yeah, now I think it's crazy. I think looking back, I think you have to change your mind. A lot of people in this country don't like to do that, but you have to change your mind. I mean, you do. Your thoughts evolve, don't they?
Yeah.
Don't they have to? I mean, I've evolved on this for sure because I think, 2004, 2005, I was, against a lot of these guys because there wasn't a lot of, maybe it was because at the time there wasn't a lot of White Sox you could point to and say we're on steroids. Maybe Albert Bell. But I don't think Frank Thomas needed them. He had a lot of injuries, took him forever to come back on, and his body kind of broke down later in his career. Like I just didn't. He was the same size. He was a tight end at Auburn. I mean, he was huge, and he was huge through his career. So maybe that's why I had the animosity towards some of these guys. Bonds was going to World Series. The Sox weren't. The Cubs were in the playoffs, so were St. Louis. Obviously, St. Louis is always in the goddamn fucking playoffs. But yeah,
I hate him. I hate him.
but yeah, maybe there was some animosity there. But I've grown on this thing. I mean, there's a lot of guys on PEDs. It's almost impossible not to take them to stay ahead. And then you look at yourself more. When you're in your 20s, you don't. You start looking inside as you get older. And I'm surprised some of these sport writers. You're a goddamn writer.
Yeah.
I'm surprised they don't look inside and go, would I take PEDs to write my novel or write my sports book and make it a hit sports book? Would I take PEDs to make this podcast better? Maybe.
Yeah. So I can't wait to ask the Rickus that question. I also can't wait to talk with Jed Hoyer, Carter Hawkins. I would love, and I told you this yesterday when I was watching it, I would love to just sit down and just be able to have a baseball conversation with these guys because I would love to just pick their brain. And when Jed Hoyer said this yesterday at about 10:30 in the morning, I didn't believe him when he said that they weren't done signing. I didn't believe him when he said we might go into spring training and we're still looking at bats and we're still looking to build up the bullpen. I thought it was going to be one of those where we get to spring training, they're like, we're happy with what we have. We did look at other options, but it didn't really work out for us. We couldn't get the numbers right. And then the news came last night, and my sports chub came back. And I know you don't like this guy because he has.
I've never said that. I'm against cancer.
But
I'm gonna go out on a limb.
But the Cubs went out and they added another bat, and I was shocked when I saw the news. I was like, "Wait, what?"
Yeah.
The Cubs made another move, and the White Sox are still stagnant. Go figure. But
an attendee,
but $75 million being the highest contract in franchise history really doesn't
for a
get
contact left-handed bat. Yeah, I guess.
Yeah, but when the Cubs go out and they sign, what's his name?
Alfonso Soriano.
No,
Trey Mancini.
Trey Mancini. Sorry, I couldn't think of it. The Cubs go out. I see the breaking news: Cubs get Trey Mancini on a 2-year deal, not even a 1-year deal, but a 2-year deal.
Mancini.
I was like, wow, and then I immediately went to, God, what does this lineup look like now? You got Hosmer, you got Mancini. One of them two are going to DH.
When you're going against a tough right-hander,
Wisdom is no longer needed.
Your guy.
I'm so excited.
He can join Virginia McCaskey now.
I love Patrick Wisdom. I do. Like I like his personality. I like him as a clubhouse guy. I don't like him as an everyday player. Though.
Isn't he going to be your guy against left-handers, though?
Probably.
Yeah, I mean,
probably.
Maybe play DH then. I mean,
yeah, or even first base.
First base, yeah. Either one.
We've got Chris Morel, who's probably going to get a bulk of the time at third. Okay. You might see some time from Patrick Wisdom at third. He's going to platoon at first. But for the Cubs to go out and make this signing, to me, like, I already had them at like around 84, 85 wins with the Dansby Swanson signing. With
I think that's a little high, but we'll see.
Really?
Yeah,
for a team that won 78 games last year, you think that a jump to 7 more wins with the addition of Dansby Swanson, Jameson Taillon.
I'll give it some more thought.
You're also going to get Kyle Hendricks back.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, you roll your eyes, but Kyle Hendricks.
I like watching him pitch.
He's a modern day Greg Maddux.
I like watching him pitch, but I don't know how much is left in the tank there. I don't get scared.
There's a lot there. I really do.
Okay.
I can't imagine that he went in a matter of a year from being a number one to just being a guy who can't be in the rotation.
Yeah.
Like I don't see that whatsoever. I don't think he's a number one. I mean, because you got to remember, we've still got some pitching here. We still got Marcus Stroman. You went out and got Jamison Tyone. You got Justin Steele,
I
who
like
proved
Tyone,
last year that
yeah.
he can pitch. You've got Caleb Killian still coming up, and he pitched well down the stretch last year when they called him up.
Yeah, I watched one of his games, or a couple of his games, I think.
So their pitching staff is well off. If they beef up, I still want to see one or two more back end, but
And
I'm
not
starting to
in
believe that this is a team that competes for this division.
not in a really tough division either.
You're better than the Brewers are right now.
I said that they might compete for this division even before they got, right after they got Swanson. I mean, I don't think it's that tough.
Louis, right?
What? What's that?
Depends on St. Louis'
Yeah.
record.
Yeah, it does. I mean, yeah, St. Louis could be a monster, man. But you never know. A couple key guys get hurt. You never know on St. Louis. You never know in baseball for sure. And you stay relatively healthy. They're going to have to stay healthy to get to mid 80 wins. Close to 90 wins. They're going to have to stay healthy. They can't have any holes.
The Cubs are in a good position.
Who knows
right
what
now.
Milwaukee's doing, and Cincinnati and Pittsburgh is,
Right. But you look at the outfield right now. You got Seiya Suzuki, Gold Glove caliber.
Mhm.
You've got Cody Bellinger, former MVP, Gold Glove winner in center field.
I'll roll my eyes again. We'll see.
You've got Ian Happ, Gold Glove winner, guy who's still
I like Happ.
and still getting better, still in his prime.
Another left.
In left field.
Well, switch hitter, right?
Not to mention you got Pete Crow Armstrong in the minors. You've got probably about 3 or 4 more outfielders that are ready to come up in the minors. And you're in a position where if you're in the thick of it, which you should be by the All-Star break, you can flip some of these guys for some real talent. And now I'm starting to believe Jed Hoyer when he says that they're not going to be afraid to add. If they are there by the trade deadline, they are not going to be afraid to pull the trigger. The Cubs are going to be back to being the best team in Chicago.
Oh, God. All this, the last 20 of the minutes of the show just was wasted to come up with your point that the Cubs are going to be the best. I'll tell you what, if the injuries happened to the White Sox last year, I'll give it to you. I mean, but I'm hoping they stay out. Like I keep saying, law averages. Let's come back to the mean a little bit, White Sox, and maybe they don't have those injuries. They're definitely on paper the better team, I think, in a division that's just about as weak, I'd say, as the Cubs division.
Only because now I think your lineup, your starting lineup has less holes than the Cubs starting lineup.
Yeah.
But I think our pitching staff has less holes than the White Sox pitching staff.
You got some proven pitchers. You got runners-up, Cy Young.
Stroman. I mean, Marcus Stroman, when he's on, I would say your number one is probably heads and tails above our number one, right? Because
Cy Young runner-up.
Cy Young runner-up.
Arguably could have won.
But beyond that, what are you getting from 2, 3, and 4?
Lance Lynn, man. I mean,
is he going to be?
He didn't have a spring training. He basically had to have a spring training. Once he got his legs under him,
so
he
that's
had
why
a 10-game
still
stretch.
A question mark, though, right? Of which Lance Lynn you're going to get.
I don't think so.
Which Giolito is going to show up.
I don't think so because he's been doing it for 10 years. Giolito, we could definitely talk about that that bag of dicks. We could definitely talk about him. I mean, and his inconsistencies for sure. But for a guy, Lance Lynn, that's been doing it in 10 years, and the thing about Lance Lynn is he only throws fastballs. Like, there's not a lot of stress on that arm. What he hurt was his knee.
Yeah.
He didn't even hurt his arm. Like, I think the arm is solid. I don't think that's going anywhere. Once he had his velocity back, and like I said, he had his legs under him. He went on a 10-game stretch. It's one of the best 10-game stretches of the year for any pitcher.
So if both teams are fully healthy, that means Kyle Hendricks is healthy and pitching well. And when he's well, his ERA stays under 3 because he's a very tough pitcher. He stays low in the zone. He pitches to contact. And the Cubs did everything they could to beef up their defense this year. You're going to need a lot of range with the shift going away. You're going to need guys who can really play their position.
Yeah.
And I believe that the Cubs have that. I believe the White Sox have that too. I love the White Sox up the middle right now, even though we don't know who their everyday second baseman is yet.
Yes.
But I think the Cubs have done it, and I think if you have Kyle Hendricks, I think he's every bit as good as the White Sox ace.
You think he's every bit as good as Dylan Cease?
I think he can be. Yeah.
No!
Yes. Absolutely.
Stop it!
What do you mean? Like, if he is
He's got one of the
guy,
best sliders in the league. I mean, come on.
dude,
And Dylan Cease has it between the ears,
Have
too.
you ever seen Kyle Hendricks change up when it's on? It's every bit as good as Cease's slider.
No. Unhittable as? No.
Yes. Dude,
No, because
he
guys
was
can
when-
watch for it. They could sit on the fastball.
In
They-
17, 18, and 19. It was 16, 17, 18, and
Not all those years.
19. Dude, why are you kidding me?
We're going to have to
Go
start
back and
bringing
look at the
stuff up on the
numbers.
big
Go
screen.
back and look at the numbers because he was lights out. I mean, Kyle Hendricks was the Cubs' #1 in all of those years, even with the guys that we had on the staff, even with
John Lester.
You know,
Well, John Lester was kind of even in the 16 year, you could see that kind of going away.
right, and Hendricks was a stud in the 16 playoffs.
I
that
like
game
watching
6
him
that he
pitch.
pitched
I
against
won't.
the Dodgers at Wrigley to get into the World Series might have been one of the best games I've ever seen pitch. Like he was untouchable in that series. He was untouchable in the World Series. I mean, I almost killed. Like I seriously wanted to send a mail bomb to Joe Madden when he pulled Kyle Hendricks from Game 7.
Yes, everybody did.
I wanted to kill him, but he could be every bit as good as Dylan Cease if he's right. And then you get into Jameson Taillon, you get into Marcus Stroman, you get into Justin Steele, and even Caleb Killian, who everybody thinks is going to be the Cubs ace in 2 or 3 seasons. I trust the Cubs rotation.
He's gonna be 33.
Cody Hoyer in the bullpen. Thank you, White Sox. Like I really like.
Cody Hoyer's got talent, man.
Yeah,
He does.
And
Let's
we
see if he
added
can put
Brad
it together.
Boxberger. Like
I
really
am
like-
not
I
putting
love
Kyle
Rowan Wick.
Hendricks even with Dylan Cease.
Are you a Rowan Wick guy? You like Rowan Wick?
Yeah.
I love that Canadian bastard so much. I love him and his mustache. Like that guy can pitch his ass off.
Grab
When
a
he's
couple
right in the
Molson
ninth inning,
ices.
man.
Yeah.
He's a stud.
No, he is.
So that's where I think that the Cubs could be a better team than the White Sox because I think that the rotation is stronger than what plays in October.
Lots of ifs in that rotation.
Yeah, there's ifs heading into every season. The biggest if is always health.
I think there's just less ifs in the Sox rotation, especially at the top of it.
Really?
Yeah, with Lance Lynn and Dylan Cease, how could you not? I mean, look at.
Would you take right now? Would you take Jameson Taillon over Lance Lynn?
No.
Really?
Maybe moving forward, Lance Lynn's getting older, but not this season. No.
Jameson Taillon's been a stud for the last 2 seasons.
Yeah, yes.
Lance Lynn's been a question mark. Even last year, I know you said there was no spring training, but Lance Lynn was a question mark last year.
He was not a question mark going into the season. I mean, he wasn't runner-up for Cy.
But we're not going into the season.
Yeah,
we know what happened.
He was not. He was in the conversation for Cy Young all of 2021. He got hurt, which happens. He came back. He worked. He had a great 10-game stretch when you needed him to
Right,
have
but that's
it.
why I don't say that you can't say that he's not a question mark heading into 2020.
He's not a question mark for me because he seemed
Really?
healthy at the end of the season. It
So
depends.
you're fully confident in Lance Lynn.
I'm fully confident just because of the pitches he pitches, because his arm has never been really hurt his entire career.
Mhm.
I mean that the pitchers like that was one, you want pitchers like that, and two, the way he pitches, he throws a lot of fastballs. He's not putting a lot of stress on that elbow.
So you're
really.
taking your number 1 and number 2 over anybody in the Cubs rotation. right
Yes.
now, okay. So let's get down to number 3. So you're talking about Lucas Giolito. Are you taking Lucas Giolito over Marcus Stroman heading into 2023?
I'm not taking Lucas Giolito over anybody. That guy's an asshole. He talks Dylan Cease out of extending his contract. At least that's what I've heard. Extending his contract with the White Sox. Not only that, he has been inconsistent. And you can't have a 92-mile-an-hour fastball or 91 or whatever you want to call it if you're a change-up pitcher. And I know we just talked about a pitcher who does that, but Kyle Hendricks is a different pitcher than Giolito, and I think Giolito has a decent mental game, but he's just not been consistent throughout his career.
So then, what about Michael Kopech? Are you taking him over Marcus Stroman?
No, I can't take him over just because I don't know what's going to come in. I'm excited about this season for him. This is going to be his 200 inning season. This is what we've been building towards since he got on the team. This is why he was out of the pen in 21. This is why he, didn't really play down the stretch last season. I think he's going to come in strong. I think he's going to have 200 innings, but I can't make, talk to me in July.
Yeah, I mean, he was 5-9 last year with a 3.54 ERA.
Yeah, which is good for a year where he was never going to pitch 200 innings, which he was bullpen year before. That's way above average for a guy who's going from the bullpen to start.
Okay, so are you taking Kopech over? You're not taking him over Stroman. Are you taking him over Tyone?
I can't.
Are you taking him over Hendo?
Yeah, I'm taking him over Hendricks for sure.
Really?
2 seasons in a row with a 4.77 and 4.8 ERA.
Come on. He's been hurt. He's been pitching with a bad elbow for 2 seasons.
Okay. So well, show me.
Yeah, no, I agree with you.
I mean, we're talking since the freaking
Kopech
Trump
was healthy last year.
administration.
He was 5-9 with 3.54, so it's not like he was blowing the world away.
Well, 3.54 is still pretty good. It's not 4.77.
That's fair enough. So you're taking him over Hendo. So and then who's number 5 in the Sox?
Clevenger. Who's going to be a question mark no matter what? He's going to be. He's got Tommy John, but this is the Tommy John year that you want a guy off Tommy John. 2 years removed. You want a guy 2 years removed from Tommy John. And that's what Kopech was last year. If he's Kopech from last year, I'll take it all day in my 5th slot, for Christ's sake.
So if we take the Cubs depth chart, I believe they're going to have Stroman is going to be their ace. Tyone's going to be their 2.
You would think.
Killian's probably going to be their 3. Steele their 4, and Hendo's going to be
the Hendricks not a bad 5 at all because he's going to eat up a lot of innings if he's healthy.
Yeah, and so
throws the contact.
I feel like, dude, this could be. We talked about this a couple of years ago. Could this be a year where we see a couple weeks ago, I should say? Could this be the year we see a Cubs Sox World Series?
Oh, I don't know. There's just too many ifs on both teams. But it would be great, wouldn't it? If they're both in the playoffs, it would be great. If they're both in the playoffs and can win a couple games, because they've been in the playoffs together a couple of years.
I can see a scenario where both of these
and both teams got swept or whatever. What's that?
I could see a scenario where both of these teams are in the CS.
We're
watching NLCS with the Cubs and NLCS with the White Sox.
Absolutely.
We're watching baseball every single night here in Chicago.
After the Cubs got Swanson, I said that, they can obviously win that division. After the West, probably not. Or the East, that's going to be tough, but they're in the Central. So are the Sox. So they both have, obviously.
If the Cubs and Sox are in the World Series, I'm moving to Indiana, and my kids are going to the daycare center next to the parlor.
You're going to get drunk every night.
There's no way I'm living in Chicago when this happens. What do you say? Jeremiah says, Sox didn't win me back. Combs shoved me face first back in.
Right when they thought he was out.
He said, I'm back in just because that little soliloquy. I think that we are entering. I think the Cubs are still 2 years away. I really do.
Mm-hmm.
Realistically,
you've said that before.
Even with the additions, I do like Trey Mancini. I think they can compete for the division this year. I don't think they can compete for the NL Crown. They're not as good as San Diego. They're not as good as LA. I mean, they're not as good as the Mets. Those 3 teams right there.
That's tough.
Minus LA, I just named 2 other small market teams.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, New York plays in New York, but they're the White Sox of New York, right? They're the smaller team in that city.
Well, I don't know with Cohen's money.
Yeah, but they're still the
big dick and everybody.
They've got less fan base than the Yankees do.
Yeah.
And so I look at the Cubs and I look at this model, and that is another thing that I would love to put up to Hoyer and Carter, is to say, what are you doing moving forward? Which model are we following? because I've heard Judd say he really likes the Tampa Rays model. But as fans, I really like the Mets model. I really like the Padres model. I like the Yankees model. I like the Dodgers model. And we are a big market city.
Yeah.
We should be spending
Why
big
is he even
market
saying
dollars.
that? Why is he even saying that?
Yeah. And I think it's a slap in the face to the fan base to even mention that.
Yeah.
I really do. And I would like to know what his thought process is along those lines.
He's probably trying to walk back. He's definitely getting something from the Ricketts to spend less money. I mean, there's no way he's not. You know, the losses were biblical, remember? He's quadrupled his money on a team that he bought, and the losses are biblical. I think that's really what's happening here. I think they're saying pump the brakes a little bit, so he has to say stuff like that. Subterfuge.
What do you expect to see from Cody Bellinger this year?
It's like asking what I expect to see from Giolito, which if you look at their careers, they really look similar, even though one's a pitcher and one's a hitter. I don't know. I mean, even though I hope he plays better, I always root for young players to play well. I don't know what's going on there. I mean, any time in baseball you see years like that go up and down, like Yoan Moncada, where these guys have just all the talent in the world, and their years are yo-yo. You kind of ask, is baseball, it's hard to say that professionals don't love the sport they play. They put so much damn work into it. But is this a true passion of theirs? Have they lost the passion for it? Is there something going on personally in their lives? And are things going to be better now? He's on a 1-year contract. You want a guy who's inconsistent on a 1-year contract, don't you?
Yeah.
Because you think they're going to win. They're going to hit 30, 40 home runs, especially in that park.
If he can learn to hit for power the opposite way. Because Wrigley Field is not kind of left-handed hitters. And I listened to Mark Grace talk about it yesterday, along with Ian Happ. And Mark Grace put it, I think, the best, because he said to Cody Bellinger, and you can see Cody Bellinger's eyes go, oh, shit. He said, in April and May, you've still got the northern wind blowing in off the lake, blowing north to south, and it's blowing in at Wrigley Field every damn day. Good luck. As a left-handed hitter. And then in the summer, it does blow out, but the flags tend to blow from right to left. It never really blows straight out. Every once in a while you get the time where it blows straight out. But
where it's crazy.
Blowing right to left.
And then Jose Abreu hits 3 home runs on you.
Yeah. And you get guys like
Yasmani Grandal hitting a 450-foot home run
that hits the bleachers on the roof across the street.
Yeah.
But I don't know that you're going to see a 40. I think for Cody Bellinger to have a bounce back season, he needs to hit about 280. He needs to hit 25. 280 is going to be doable with the shift going away.
Yeah,
he's hitting 220.
Good point.
Between 220 and 240 against the shift. I think a lot of these balls that you're going to see now, because when you're coming up through, whether it's through high school ball, college ball, minor league ball, you hit a ball back at the pitcher's face 10 times out of 10, that's a base hit. When you get into major leagues lately with the shift, it's ground out to the shortstop who's playing right behind second base.
Mm-hmm.
And if you hit one into the gap, it's usually caught. Like they were talking yesterday, and this is why I love the conversation so much, right? Because you listen to big league hitters talk about things that you wouldn't normally think about, right? Like he said, Ian Happ said, with the shift, you have about 2 choices about where you're going to hit the ball. Am I going to try to slap it the other way while this guy's throwing me a 95-mile-an-hour cutter on my hands? Or I'm going to have to hit a laser into like a 5-foot window in the gaps. Or I'm going to have to hit a home run.
Yeah.
Now with no shift, I've got all sorts of options. I've got a hole here. I've got a hole here. I can go up the middle. I can do this. You open up your options as a hitter.
Yeah.
I think you're going to see a lot of averages go back to normal. I think 300 is going to become the new old standard for hitters.
And even though I'm against canceling the shift, and you're going to see the second base position gain in importance, because the second base position kind of lost its importance a little bit over the last years, especially defensively. You're going to see you're going to need better defense and better range over there too. So, I mean, it does help with that. Not to quote Derek Jeter, but that is what he said about getting rid of the shift, that they're going to be more athletic plays at second. So second becomes more important from a defensive perspective too.
Yeah, and I think that's where the Cubs really put a focus on this offseason, because by moving your everyday shortstop over to second base,
Nico,
because you signed a really good defensive shortstop, just makes your up the middle. It's going to be fun to watch the Cubs up the middle of the season. It's going to be fun to watch. So I still think it's going to be fun to watch the White Sox up the middle. Tim Anderson, to me, I'll say it right, even as a Cubs fan, Tim Anderson is my favorite player to watch in Chicago right now.
Yeah.
It's tough. I love the way this guy played. Before last season, it's Wilson Contreras and Tim Anderson, right? Wilson Contreras, my favorite, just because of the flair that he played with.
Yeah.
But now Wilson's in St. Louis, so fuck him. But Tim Anderson is going to be fun to watch up the middle too, because he's going to be making a lot more athletic plays as well. But whoever they have at second base, whether it's the rookie, whether you go out and I don't think Josh Harrison. I think White Sox fans cringe when I say the name Josh Harrison.
I'd rather give it to the rookies. I mean, I don't think he's far up.
You give it to the rookies, or you can go back out and get
Elvis Andrews.
I
think that's the play, especially with losing the shift. But
another shortstop that can play second base, and it's really fun to watch them turn it up the middle.
Fills in for Tim if he gets hurt. If Elvis Andrews, he's an older player, he might get hurt. Then you do bring in the rookies. Then you go with the rookies.
I think one of the lost bodies for Cubs fans that they're not even thinking about, because we went out and we got Dansby Swanson and we're like, oh great, we can move Nico over to second. Yeah. The lost face in all this, and people forget that he's still signed and he's only in the third year of his 7-year contract that they gave him, is David Bote. Everybody's forgetting about David Bote.
Isn't he making what is he making? $3 million a year.
$3 million a year. Yeah, it's not much.
But
he's still a guy who I've said time and time again, I would give him an everyday shot at third base. I'd give him an everyday shot.
You could do that maybe in this lineup
there, but even to just have him platoon, or play once every fifth day. I mean, you're not losing anything by bringing. You're losing a little bit. I think you're losing a little bit with the bat by bringing Bote in over Nico. I think Nico's a better contact hitter. I think Nico is a better top of the lineup guy, and you lose a little bit there, but you don't lose much defensively.
Mm-hmm.
Bodie's still a really good defensive player, and I think Cubs fans forget about the big hits he always tends to have when he's in the lineup.
Yeah.
I still got the picture in my basement where he's rounding the bases against the Nationals.
That was a cool game. That was a cool game.
I think people are tending to forget that. So I really think that the Cubs are in a much better position than a lot of people are really going to give them credit for, especially nationally.
Mm-hmm.
There's not going to be a lot of people that don't pick the Cardinals to win this division.
No.
There's not going to be a lot of people that don't pick the Brewers to finish second in this division. The Cubs are going to be thought of as maybe the third best team in this division. And I think that they have a chance to be the best team in this division. I really do.
I don't know. It's going to be tough to overcome the Cardinals, but I think they can overcome Milwaukee because I have no idea what they're doing. I don't even think Milwaukee knows what they're doing.
Yeah. So we've talked way longer than we normally do.
Yes.
We're at about 2 hours and 15 minutes. And Jeremiah is still hanging in there. David Bote might have forgot he was on the podcast. It's true. I haven't heard anything about it. What is the plan for David Bote? I didn't hear anything about it yesterday. He wasn't at the fan convention. Neither was Stroman, which shocked me. I was wondering where he was.
Kind of weird.
I was watching the pitchers panel, and Stroman wasn't there, and I thought that was.
He's kind of a weird guy, though.
He is.
He doesn't,
He is, but you want. Christopher Morel was so much fun to watch on the panel. He was on the panel for the kids, where the kids get interviewed with the players, and he was great.
Yeah.
during that. And so guys like that to me are fun to watch.
Yep.
You know, Wilson Contreras a couple of years ago when they asked him a question, and they asked him, one of the kids asked him, "Hey, what was your favorite memory from the year?" He's like, "Oh, when we picked the guy off for the Cardinals." He's like, "And I went out there and I told Lester, hey motherfucker, throw that fucking thing to first." And dude, you just see everybody else on the panel, Rizzo's on the panel, Brian's on the panel, and they both go, "Earmuffs, kids, earmuffs, kid." Like, I love watching stuff like that because it's the players just in their natural environment, being human beings. So
True.
all right, so we're gonna get out of here. We're gonna, go through basement designs with your wife.
Yeah.
We're gonna maybe, catch some of the playoff game going on. And we're gonna get out of here. So Jeremiah says, "I laid a laminate floor during the show."
You could do that. You could have done that.
He's probably not out of the realm of possibility.
Ability there.
I mean, it's probably only like 40 square feet of it, but you can still lay one.
Yeah.
So, all right, so we're gonna get out of here. Thank you guys for joining. As
Putting
always,
up with us
Yeah,
in the
thanks.
beginning of the show too.
Yeah, thanks for hanging in there, Jeremiah. We appreciate you. We appreciate everybody who chimed in. Stephanie Morales, Nico Morales' wife, she was great today. It was a lot
Johnny
of fun.
Torres.
Johnny Torres was in there. We talked Bears. It's gonna be a fun off season.
It is.
Gonna
More
be
to
a really fun
come.
offseason. Yes,
For sure.
plenty more to come. We will talk to you guys later. Till next time, Man Hour Nation, rise up.